Yeah.
Rho VT. Okay.
Yeah. So data sovereignty is not a thing that you go out to get. It's that you want these other features and then you'd like to have data sovereignty.
Um. Yes.
Um,
There's some nuance to that, but yes.
yeah, jitters is kind of broadly speaking tier two eating tier three, which is like we think the future of all apps are just that. Like that's what it all breaks down to.
Yep.
Agents having an agent platform turns out is quite hard, but you know we think we got a design in hand that makes that look makes that work pretty good.
Yep.
And one of those agents does automated attribution that's fair. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, I think things have just felt weird lately because we're nearing completion or a version that feels very. It's not that it's final. It's that it's like it's bare enough and minimal enough that it's like that's the framework, that's the model, and then we sort of just push on it, and has felt a bit empty because it's bare. But then I was reminded during this conversation that, um, of course, it's bare. That's the point. It's meant to be assembled and have
Well,
things added to it.
it's bare like a text editor with no text.
Right, right. And then if you just gave someone, this blank page and there was nothing on it, that would indeed feel strange.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think we need to worry about that. Because we've got a whole hopper of people who will, um, according to what they're saying, will jump in. Um, jitters, I think, if I were to stack rank those, if let me, is this a useful stack rank um, exercise?
I don't think so because I do believe that we have things that are independent of each other that for reasons that I'm not sure about, we've ended up with them all together because we feel like we need them all. But ultimately, the only thing we really care about is getting automated attribution rolling because that we don't see that anywhere. It's a possibility. It would make our lives better. It would make all the lives of the people we've ever dealt with better. It'd make a lot of people, of all the things we can think of to do, that one makes the most people's lives better, um,
Yes,
by
yes,
by
agreed,
by a long way, I think.
agreed.
And it's actually not just fair automated attribution. It's just automated fairness. Like anywhere that's awkward or anywhere that's contentious, we think we have a framework where fairness can be introduced in an AI sense, and that can settle everybody down. Now,
Yeah,
the reason why it's important that we land with these jumble of features that on their own would be rare or useful is because you can't launch automated agents or automated fairness on something that's stale or out of date. You need to be riding the bleeding edge. And that's why we came to jitters. That's why we have agents. Like, agents wasn't even our primary thing. It's just that is the future. But as it turns out, the agents model is what makes it easy to do automated fairness because when you embody it as an agent as opposed to a web page with a list of panels and some click down collapsible menus and some fucking forms to fill out, chatting to an agent is a far more practical and approachable embodiment of the machine that does the calculation.
yes, I agree. And when we're trying to do attribution or thinking about attribution when all we had was software, um, we always kind of kicked that ball down the road a bit because it was so
Yeah,
gnarly.
well, down the road is here now, and
Yeah.
it turns out we can eat it with an LLM. Um, but I just want to re- redress you on the you sounded like you were saying that automated fairness was the last redoubt because it was so hard to make, and that's no protection. That's no, like, as you know, as soon as someone sees that something's possible or how to do something, which is we're showing everyone how to do it as well as
Well,
showing that it's
well
possible,
that's true.
they
I mean,
immediately copy it. So it's no
yeah,
protection.
yeah, that is true. That is true. And that's why DeepSeek managed to build their model with 16
Yeah,
million
because
instead of
they saw someone else
500
that.
million.
Yeah. So why do you think that the fairness is a safety?
Um, Pause. Um, Attribution is a very strong network effect. It may not be safe in its conception, in that as soon as everyone else sees that it can be done, then they can do it as well. There is a network effect for first mover advantage, maybe, but maybe I'm putting too much faith in attribution as a last redoubt. It might be a stack rank in that everything else, people can do jitters. As soon as they see jitters, they can do them. Everyone can do agents and multi-agent. Attribution seems to be um, the hardest to conceptualize, but also
I think
to
everyone can do
organize.
that. I think everyone can do that too. I think that it's of no the path we're on is to produce it at all. I think that everyone could understand how it works and could present a version of it. Um,
I think you might be right. I say the lateral doubt, but that is really what I'm saying is a stack rank. What's the most unlikely thing someone is going to spontaneously come up with?
I don't think that even really matters. Like, there's no like if you rank them, it doesn't change anything. It's more like maybe the uniqueness we bring is the fact that we assemble these three things together. You know, like jitters is there because you need utility. Like, there's no point. No one needs fairness if there's no utility going on. If no one's using it, the attribution equation's pretty simple.
Yeah.
You know, like it's the merging of all these features that's the actual meta feature, or the having them all together at once and with data sovereignty at the substrate. That
Yeah.
package is what makes it unique, I think.
I thought. I don't think it's going to be unique for all time. For example, uh, there is a first mover advantage. I think Google managed to get their market share, but as soon as people figured out what Google was doing, you got Bing. But if you look at the market share with Bing, even now, it's very difficult
Yeah, but Bing
once you
always
get that
sucked.
network.
So it's also like Google was obsessively good.
It was,
Anyway, I think
yeah,
I've steered us down a path where I'm trying to. It sounds like I'm trying to figure out if we're going to die or not. I'm not. I'm trying to understand what it is that we are doing from the point of view of key features, or what are the not for the sake of survival or being novel or new, but just to look at what we do in the cold light of day, I suppose.
yeah. Well, of those three, the one that stands out as not being at all unique is agents or agentic, getting AIs to talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even context, that's not new. Um, so a context window pulling in things cursor style, that's not new. So number two is well understood. I'm not seeing anyone doing jitters, and I'm definitely not seeing anyone doing attribution.
Mm. Oh well. So I just wanted to share some more of my thinking lately. Just to, I don't know, be on the same page if possible, or have some uh, common ground, I guess. It struck me that really, once the Dreamcatcher gets going, what you'd probably want to use it for is just going about your day and having innovations that other people have applied and done being mentioned to you, which in a way makes it look like ad tech, but it's really just saying that each individual is not really that big a source of innovation. The biggest gains that they can have is learning to apply what's already there. And so
Hmm.
AIs that can look at everything in your life and hint at things that would make your life better, not blindly like an advertiser does, but with some deep research and thought behind it and some calculations, and being like, if you bought that thing, not that thing, your life would be better here. If you stopped this thing and did this thing instead, this is how it would be better for you. You know, like if you go to it and be like, what businesses can I start? It would sort of know your local area, and it would come to you and say, well, you know, over in Turkmenistan, they did this and this and this, but we could adapt that for here. And there's this opportunity here, and you should talk to this other guy. He's having a similar thoughts as you. And so it's really about telling you how to apply technology, maybe more so
Um,
than creating
yeah,
technology.
yeah. And if I was to offer an edit to your three there, I would change agents to stucks because consistently the gold is when someone tries to do something or appears to try to do something and can't, but wants to.
Yeah, but that.
Now, attribution is another matter. Attribution isn't stucks. Stucks is just saying, oh, right, I've noticed you tried to do this and you couldn't.
How about that then? Automated error detection and remediation.
Yeah, I mean, that's more words, but yeah, stucks. I'm stuck. I try to do it, can't.
Yeah, but it's the fact that it's automated is more important than the fact that you're stuck.
The fact that it's surfaced is the important bit.
Yeah, but surfaced automatically,
Yes. Yeah,
because
absolutely.
currently it doesn't surface because of a bottleneck of labor. There's not enough human labor to go around and
Exactly. So in your scenario, when you're going about your day, you're trying to do something. Uh, Computer says no. That's a stuck. That is really interesting. That is as interesting as a heat map or an ad click. Because if you get
yeah,
enough people trying to
yeah,
do
yeah,
stuff that they can't, then
yeah,
whoever solves that is going to be
yeah.
able to
And
be
often the
attributed
people that
to
are
solving it.
stuck, they don't know that they're stuck, or they don't know that there's a better way. And so having an independent watcher.
Yeah. The reason I was raising that is Stux is the key to a kind of automatic improvement in,
Self improvement.
yeah, because otherwise people just put up, and just do it, workarounds,
Yeah,
find hacks, sort
yeah.
of
It's
thing.
like a
Nothing improves.
that process is part of AI model behavior anyway, or agentic behavior anyway, but it's never really surfaced as the key thing. But we're saying that that's actually the primary, that's a fundamental part of our physics. In fact, that's
Yeah,
one of the most, that is the most important, well, one of the four most important things that we know of is automatic error detection.
and the importance of that is I severely doubt we'll ever run out of stocks, no matter how good a system
There's just
gets.
going to be more. Like all that's going to happen is there'll just be more and more and more. The
Yeah,
more you solve, the more you'll have.
Yeah, and so you go from stocks to say, how do you solve those stocks? Well, you solve it by incentivizing through attribution,
Yep.
and that is to be more complete and correct, I guess, with my half-arsed thing. That is the last redoubt. So by the attribution model doesn't make any sense without what are you
Yeah,
doing?
yeah, I guess that's what I'm driving at, right? Like the automated attribution is actually not the key thing, really. It's the
Mm.
effect that all of these things happen, that all of them have together. They're not they're not assembled because we felt like having some cool stuff and slapping it together. Like jitters is the means, it's the minimum means for the correction to be received. Agents is the mechanism by which all the automation happens. Attribution is what keeps everyone incentivized to contribute with their problems and their solutions, and to try out the fixes, because that's
Yeah, yeah,
work
yeah.
too, right?
Yeah, yeah. That makes yeah,
And automated error
yeah.
detection is really that's the evolution part. That's the bit that, in the Darwinian sense, the automated error detection is the environment, and it kills you if you erred. Um,
Right. Yeah,
and so
yeah.
that's how the
Because
automated error detection works
it's
in nature.
it's the difference between static and dynamic. So if we were to really boil this down, saying I was trying to do this thing and I couldn't, and then how do I how does someone find the thing that I wanted to do and then solve that for me and then serve that back? So we've got there the stocks. I can't do this. The attribution, which is the reason why someone would try and solve this problem for you, and jitters is the presentation of the solution that has been served to you. Agents kind of fade into the background. They're necessary, but they don't. I doesn't feel that their agents are at the same level in the same way as we don't put up servers there or storage or repos or anything. Agents are kind of necessary in order to make this done, but the key thing
No, I
is
think it's actually pretty key, because agents is the embodiment of intelligence, be it human or machine. And without that clear embodiment,
can
you're
I challenge
leaky.
that then? Can I challenge, in a world without AI, could we do this with an infinite
No,
number of very smart software engineers?
no, because the labor, human labor produces a type of entropy whereby human labor makes problems. And if you try to fix the problems with human labor that makes more problems, you will
Oh, I
saturate.
see. That's an unbounded chaotic system, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
it devolves too
yeah,
rapidly,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
But AI
Okay.
agents are they're sort of entropieless. Like they solve problems without more problems, because they're not a human. They run and they stop. You're out of money, fine,
Right,
it stops
right.
instantly.
It's like the unbounded Mandelbrot sets.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, and
and
that's why agents
unbounded.
is a
Yeah,
crucial part of this model, because it allows us to interface with the
yeah.
system
Great.
as people, and it allows the AIs to interface with it, and it's what moves all the components around is
Yeah.
agents.
So there is a mechanism emerging here, which I think you probably I can't think of a fifth, um, because what we're seeing is uh, the surfacing of a problem, the creation of the solution to that problem, and then the presentation of the solution. It's almost like there's a OODA loop type thing.
Well, this is it, right? This is the environment.
Yeah.
It's the ecosystem, but because we've captured the whole ecosystem, including the money and the incentives, um, that's what I think makes it unique
Well, the
or
thing is,
use.
it's very close to this loop, isn't it?
Yeah.
So orientation would be discovery. So automated error detection. Um, Orientation, I guess, would be agents.
Um,
Decision. Is
no,
it?
I don't think those things match here.
Oh, it feels like it does, but okay, it's just on the tip of the tongue.
It's just evolution, really. Self improvement. It's this. This is the self improvement loop in
But
a
there's a
particular.
loop here, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The stuck
There's
loop.
a yeah, there's a self reinforcing loop,
Yeah.
which the um, energy that goes into the loop to stoke it is that people turn up and want to do this, and the agents help them do that, and the meat of it is stucks to um, naps. Naps are not on that list. Why are not naps on that
Jitters.
list?
That's what jitters are.
Yeah,
Jitters are made of naps.
yeah, but they're jitters are not naps. Jitters are made of naps, but they're not naps. So naps are the thing that jitters are made of.
I think that's just the packaging format. That's not. It just sort of. That's one layer down. It's like the practical. Like you could do just in time applications using not naps, using some other kind of format or some other means. You always need some kind of capturing packaging mechanism. Naps is just our implementation detail, I think.
I disagree agreeably, because
All
naps
right, look,
are
I don't.
a
I'm not feeling like we're gaining a lot from debating these
well.
terms and
It's
definitions. Eh? Like,
well, yeah. Well, we don't have to, but I think naps deserves a listing on that one because naps are what happens when people are incentivized to solve stucks. Jitters are what happens at runtime.
jitters are running naps, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there's any value in distinguishing between the static artifact and the running thing. I think the running thing is all that I think I'm trying to describe this in terms of what people care about, right?
Ah, right. Okay. Well, that's a different thing. What
That
people care
yeah,
about
the
is
external view of the
yeah,
system is what I was
yeah.
trying to simplify down to just what are the main things we do, because every time I try and explain the Dreamcatcher, it's always like there's no one key thing, but there are, I think, four key things listed here, but together they form the actual key thing, which is adaptability or self-learning.
Yes. Yes.
That
Absolutely.
that
That
adaptability is really the thing that
self
we're
self improvement
self
and improvement
improvement
over
as a
time.
network, as
Yeah.
a whole, as a collection of people and machinery. Self improvement is what we're trying to. That's the key thing. That
Yeah.
is the absolute key thing. And these four things are the what it looks like from the outside, because you wouldn't immediately notice that self improvement was even there or that it was going fast. You wouldn't. That's not what strikes you first. Like you don't look at the forest and see self improvement. You see the embodiment of what's happening today. In fact, oftentimes for most of humanity, you participated in the self improvement and you didn't even know it. You're like, I'm gonna eat that
Well, well,
orange, or I'm gonna hunt that
yeah,
fish.
yeah. Looking at the forest, you're looking at the jitters and you're going, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah,
Uh, and then under the hood, it's like, you try to do something, can't. There's a
right.
stuck.
But you're
Um,
not appreciating the automated error detection that nature provides.
well, exactly. I mean, who appreciates the cyclic loop of a tree growing?
Yeah, you don't. And so describing the Dreamcatcher from the outsider's initial view of what the key things are these four things: the jitters, agents, fairness, and auto error detection.
And I'm not trying to prolong this, but this is a really kind of core thing. In terms of trying to describe this, the first thing you describe is jitters.
Would you?
I think so. It's like it does what you want just in time, every time.
Not
Then
agents?
no, I think agents just strikes me as a given. It's like saying servers. Of course, agents are involved.
Well, another thing that was brought to mind during this discussion was that I was reminded that in general, most people are not heavily into technology. And so, where the majority of people sit right now, they're not really that aware of AI. They hear about it, but they're not like deep in it. And they're
No,
certainly not
that's that,
immersed, right?
an obvious statement that is well worth stating and
And it's
restating
even
because
true
when you get
amongst
into a car,
programmers. It's
who
even
knows how
true
cars
amongst
function?
programmers. And so we sit here fretting about these details, but actually the majority of people don't even realize that they are details that need to be fretted about.
Yeah, who knows? Generally speaking, in the populace, how an email works or a text
Right.
works.
But the key thing that got me going, that automated error detection, and thank you for adding it to the list, it is actually pretty critical because you would, if you've got the Dreamcatcher platform installed at your work, it's connected to your email flows and your file servers, and there's some existing jitters that you're using, some agents that you're using, but you're still, laboring through your daily loop, as it were. The auto error detection would be looking at what you're doing and suggesting better ways to do it. There is no app on the planet that does that at the moment, except your boss, because they're the only one that seems to care that you do things better. For some reason, employees on average can't seem to want to make things better. It just, I don't know
That's
exactly
a
why that is,
really
but
interesting point.
right.
I've had a real hard time explaining Dreamcatcher, even though
It takes more than two sentences to
I
explain.
know, right? But I think the key is in the catch part. It's actually the catch. The catcher part is the most important part. I think I can say with confidence. To be able to have a system that is deployed in a company so that as you use it, it suggests ways that you could be better, not just with the tools you've got on hand, but also from things far away across the Mediterranean Sea, across Africa, across Asia. And it's like, there's a tool out there that does this in half the time. There's a algorithm that just got developed that does this. There's this guy that lives down the road who could probably help you. The catching, the recognizing that you've got a problem before you even know it, and
Right.
presenting a solution and proving it to you with some measurable arguments. You're like 5% efficiency gain. That's the catch. That's the dream catcher.
That's interesting. In my head, I'm seeing two loops. The first one is there is no problem. The jitters are giving you everything you wanted. No problems, no stucks.
Yeah, but that's, as you can imagine now, thinking about that world. Have you
Yeah,
ever, all you got to
ex-
do is give it to your wife, and suddenly there's a
exactly,
problem.
exactly. And so then there's a sub loop about if it didn't actually do what you wanted it to do,
Right, but then
then
there's the deeper implied problem, which is you didn't even know that you wanted it to do more
right,
or different.
right,
Right, that's
exactly,
really
which
the
is
key.
the self-surfacing, self-correcting,
Mm,
self-improvement, surfacing of error
yeah,
detection.
that's the thing that will feel like AGI is when you're using it and it's always schooling you. It's
Yeah,
always telling you. But that's what ad tech should be. ads shouldn't be
Right.
ads should be telling me something that make my life incrementally better, and I didn't know about it, and it's a great choice to make, and I'm like,
Yeah, but ads are a push, and what we're looking at is useful pull. It's like
yeah,
I want to do this,
yeah,
but I
like
don't want to be told about
it's
it.
ads, but it's on your side, like it's
Yeah.
going out into the marketplace of the world, and it's pulling in what is there already that could make you better right now. But further than that, the dream part of the catching is when it's asking for things that don't exist, even though it's scoured the entire world. It's like there's still this thing undone. Please, I dream of this thing.
Right. And you don't care how it's done. I don't
No,
really care how the Google algorithm does it. But every now and again you get that oh my god, silence moment when it feels like it knows you better than your wife.
yeah, or better than you. And
Yeah.
I think that how we'd always been looking at it, because we are people who like to create solutions, we'd thought about it more from the point that we put our ideas in and have them captured and turned into utility somewhere. But actually, the once I think AI is already there, but as it gets even better, the true future of this platform is to detect problems before we even know, and then to solve them as well in an automated sense. And you're just like, wow, that's like no problems. Like my problems are being solved faster than I can make them.
And you're right. People don't care about how it's done. When you get in your car, you don't need to know how the carburetor works.
You don't
You
need
don't
to
care.
know that there was a war in the Middle East over the oil that fueled the
Right.
car in the refinery, like all these things, right? Like
Yeah.
you get surprisingly connected to the world markets very quickly with everything you do.
Yeah. So I'll give a go at this, but I do see like there's two loops here. The jitters are how you interact with it. You're
It's how you receive solution.
right, and you don't need to know how those solutions are improved. But under the bonnet, um, you've got attribution, error detection, um, and the innovation cycle
Yeah.
that just then pops stuff back up into the layer that you really care about, which is kind of only jitters.
It's all you care about.
Yeah,
Well, actually,
jitters and agents and your
yes and no,
threads.
right? Because you also care that an agent is telling you stuff,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and
But that's the same as a steering wheel, right? That is your agent. Your primary agent is like a steering wheel. It's the thing you interact with.
mm,
Um, so it's ubiquitous. You have to have it. Jitters are like the engine, and then it's like, how does that engine, without you having to express anything, how does it improve? How does it
mm.
just get faster or more powerful overnight?
Yeah. So I think the reason why I'd been feeling very empty about um, what I was doing for the last few months is because I've only been using AI externally on a piece of dead software. I
Yeah,
haven't been actually bringing in the AI is not mounted in the Dreamcatcher yet, and that's why it's felt rather empty and dead. But I can see that as soon as the AI is connected to this just to our initial thing here, as soon as that's set up, then
mm,
we're cooking with gas. Like it starts to get very, very powerful in terms of the things that we can do.
I
Um,
agree. You said something about 10 minutes ago that struck me about ad tech, because Google's risen to the heights that it has because it takes a sliver of advertising revenue.
right.
Um, there's a similar dynamic here because Google has doubled down on finding out what people want to be advertised about to. Sorry, that's
Right.
terrible grammar, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's a very similar dynamic where your problems are solved and delivered at the jitter layer when you need it, and possibly very fast, possibly slow, but Google takes a slice of um, the total value of an ad being expressed, and I made good coin on that. It's the same principle here.
Better though. Google was slicing the connection of the communications layer, but we're slicing the actual value exchange. That's what we want to slice, which is deeper, far deeper.
Yes. I agree. Okay. I'm going to give a go at that with a diagram.
Okay, that
but
sounds cool.
I agree with what you're saying.
That's cool. Yeah, I was just like, shit, man. I think,
No, that's fertile stuff.
you know,
you just said.
it's. We got to look at it right. We got to look at it from the outside, and you know, it really helped me. Having a chat with Sophie the other day, I was like, that's actually a great way to put it. Like we're turning up with this bare bones thing, and of course it's going to look bare because there's nothing there. That was the point. It's adaptable. Like it needs to be filled. We turn up with an empty thing that you can fill. Of course it looks empty.
Yeah. It's inevitably empty. Although there's plenty of people standing at the gates waiting to be let in.
Yeah, I just hope it is all that they wish for it to be.
Well, we
I
don't
feel
know
like
yet.
I glimpsed the future of agentic work and the future of platforms. If there's no other correspondence on this
No,
topic,
I think we're good on that topic.
all right. I don't even know
want
what
to
we
give
call
you
that topic. It's like the summary topic.
Well, it's a kind of whatever this version of two loops, OODA loop squared. Oh, I don't know. But there is a loop here. There's a self-reinforcing loop that seems quite
Yep.
strong.
Yeah. And the Dreamcatcher platform is just about those features, I suppose. The necessary minimum features to get the loop going, because it's the loop that we care about, really.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that because it's self-reinforcing, self-error detecting, self-incentivizing, surfaces up to the jitter layer is going to just improve by people's usage.
Okay, so to move slightly along, it started, now that I've been using Codex all day, every day for a while now. I feel like I'm getting the hang of it. It's been rough. It's like a change of career, because I haven't written, I spend all day not writing code, and yet I produce more code of higher quality than ever before.
I'm feeling the pressure waves of your, perturbance.
Perturbance, yes, very perturbed. But it's given me a glimpse into the future of what software development, at least, is. And I'll try to explain it by saying a bunch of plausible things that I think will happen in the future, and I'm happy to debate about them as I set down the scene. All right. So it seems like the runtime of agents will get bigger and bigger, and there will be multi-level systems where agents are controlling other agents to carry out my intents, burning wastefully, but ultimately fruitfully at the end, burning more and more tokens and navigating more and more decision trees or possibility trees to narrow down what is of use to me. And by that I mean that I can imagine a world where Artifact or Dreamcatcher, being, as you know, a very complex system, it being reasoned about by AI bots that are always looking for improvements in the fundamental design, not just cosmetic patches and paint and bog and that, but actual fundamentally reasoning over how it's built, why it's built that way, looking out for what's similar, suggesting new features, responding to requests. All these kinds of things seem within near reach, if not here already, and merely lacking an assemblage. And so, in that world, also considering that we have, I think this is the last ingredient I need to add to the scene before I start the pitch, as it were. Also on the scene are these agents that can navigate computer interfaces, like browsing, clicking, running a program or an app, things like that, right? And so it seems almost in hand, if not within near reach, to make a system where if you, no matter what you made in software terms, be it a new language, a little widget, a web page, anything, a library, you could not have any value keeping it closed because the AIs can clone it probably better than you for fractional amounts of money. And so even a legacy app, you can run the agent on it. It can be generating a map of all the features of this thing and, listing out faults and bugs, and then it makes its own version. It clones it in functionality. It runs its own tests. You can imagine making a library, publishing a library for applications, and then you've got an agent that part of the testing process is it comes at the library cold. All it's got is the docs in the library, and it tries to make various types of application out of it, and it reports back its faults. Those faults go into the architect's brain, which whirs away and creates fixes and patches. It could be docs, it could be API shape, API ergonomics, it could be anything like that, right? And so what seems to be present before us and thoroughly unacknowledged is that every major software thing, ranging from vendor cloud-based closed source things like Google to large closed source apps like SAP, Oracle, those things they have already fallen. All that's left to do is for them to hit the ground, because you can't fight an AI clone of your software. You can't stop it. You can't, on the one hand, tell people what your software does enough that they'll want to use it, and also be able to stop someone making an equivalent version using these AI tools. You can't sell people access to your closed source software product without an agent being able to clone its functionality the next day. That's the stage I want to set.
Okay. Give me a second. So what you're saying is software is an example of a solved problem, albeit has problems, but it solves a problem.
Yep.
Given that well-formed problem, AI is will be able to clone that to create the same solution, regardless of
Yep.
any piece of software.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
That's quite profound, man. And it's going to be an inventive piece, and so the original authors can't come back.
It can't be
to-
copyrighted. You
Yeah,
can't really have patented how to do it. Like those patents don't hold up very strong
yeah. So
anyway.
anything that's been solved can be cloned by AI.
Yeah. And I'm telling you that I think that we're actually there already. It's just left to be actually done en masse. But it's sort of like it's about to, that is about to just shatter.
Bro, that's the most profound thing I've heard for a long while, and I'm gonna have to think about the implications.
Let me help you out with some suggestions then.
Yeah,
So-
go for it. Yeah.
That being the case, you end up with two options. If you open sourced your, I guess, to make the Dreamcatcher look as ugly as I can, to make it look like, you know, a forced march, which is honestly how I feel with AI at the moment. We could set it upon NPM registries, package registries, the top 100 SaaS apps. Now, at the start, we're not going to be able to knock them all off, but there will be some that will be able to be like cloned successfully. We could then find people like ourselves with enough sort of instinct and familiarity to guide the bots through the last little bits they need to produce these clones. We've got a mount point where the clone can be presented in a much heavily reduced way through jitters using naps. If we do that, we would be tripping off a massive translation of all existing code into this new form. The new form has multiple benefits. AI is now in charge of the release cycle, the bug fix, the 0 days, the performance, the improvement, the enhancement, the answering issues, answering emails. That's better done by a bot. End of story.
And also, you can, excuse me a second, you can stick it inside of the innovation loop, where it's the automated error detection, self-surfacing,
Yeah.
all that good stuff.
Yeah. So where we'd end up with actually is if we have that capability, first of all, if you've open sourced your software, that makes it even easier to clone. And because of the automated attribution thing, because you open sourced it, I would imagine the fair answer is much more attribution to you than if you kept it closed, because if it's less tokens, it's less errors, it's less everything if we read the code and produce either a patch or a modified version, right? And so now you get a lot of attribution for that, and we're like, hey, we did take your code, thank you, we're going to pay you for it. But if you made it closed,
you burn more tokens trying to crawl an application.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But if you kept it closed, you're going to only get attribution for what was open. So the API surface, you're like, thank you for showing us it could be solved. Thank you for showing us by way of public forum and complaints what was wrong with your solution. You didn't share the source. We did it all ourselves. And so your attribution will be not very much. And so the selfish part of me says that the most lucrative ways, if we assume that ambient attribution is God and it's going to be there and it's paying out, the most lucrative things during the transformation that's about to kick off is to go after the things that are closed. Because at some point, everyone's going to realize the only way you're going to get paid for something that you used to think was worth protecting, but now can be cloned for nothing, the best outcome is to open source it and give it all away so that you get maximum attribution. But if you get to something that's closed before someone open sourced it, you
You're
now
absolutely right.
they've kept the price high, so you can launch as a competitor with a higher price than normal. You now under God's rules get this fair, you get a bigger cut because you did it from closed versus
Yeah.
them. And so the self-centered version of me is like, those are the
Oh
lucrative
my
ones.
fucking word. You're absolutely right.
That's the money.
That's a circle where it's more virtuous to open source than
Yeah,
closed source
yeah,
because any closed source can be cloned,
yeah,
uh, and there's also an incentive to clone it because it
yeah.
costs more tokens.
Like you make it more like
Ah, oh
a
my
bigger
god!
target if it's closed and lucrative.
Yeah, and you're basically bursting a balloon.
Yeah, there's balloons around, and I'm just saying we should pop a couple.
Yeah,
And so
that's a
maybe
that's
it
a really
is that,
interesting
once
concept.
we have the basics of our system up, really that's the ranging shot. We should be able to clone these things because I'm looking at Codex grinding through the artifact code base, and I'm like, you should be able to clone artifact just with a few descriptions. And so we want to make the Dreamcatcher system suitable enough that it can actually, guided by us, can manage artifact and do big refactors, big feature adds, adding the consensus mechanisms for blockchaining, adding
Hmm.
this and
Hmm.
that,
Hmm.
wild tests, usability tests where we're like, here's the library, here's the docs, here's a cold LLM with a sandbox, find problems. And it just grinds through trying to use the library. It hits all the bugs there are to be
Hmm.
hit about it. And then it just comes out and it's this wildly polished little piece. And then a human looks at it and goes, fuck, that's good. And it's like, oh, you're human number 10.
Hmm.
That's not typically how software gets delivered. And so that capability feels very, very close. Very close.
Hmm.
So there's our
Hmm.
personal capabilities with the Dreamcatcher platform, but then there's also accelerating is the model builders, the tier ones, like better versions of Codex, DeepSeek's version of Codex. All these other things are coming to
Oh,
light.
DeepSeek is an example of what you just said. They used the old models in order to train their new models for a fraction
Yeah.
of the price.
Yep. Yep.
That price was not small. It was
It
still,
was just less, a lot
it
less.
was a lot less. It was an order of
Yeah.
magnitude less.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to, the next derivative of DeepSeek that is an order of magnitude less again.
Mm.
Um, and then it really comes down to, as you say, if you've got a piece of closed software, it is vulnerable to anyone cloning it.
It's
Based on
unnaturally
token.
vulnerable. It's overly vulnerable because it's closed. The
Yeah.
open source software is less lucrative because, first
Yes.
of all, the ambient
Yeah.
attribution is going
Why
to
would
go,
you? Yeah. Yeah.
well,
Exactly.
the margins are usually low, but second of all, the ambient attribution is going to largely go to the original authors because they shared it. And so you're
Right.
sort of not really, it's like,
Right.
we'll help
Right.
you solve
You
some
haven't done the
bugs, but
heavy lifting.
no.
The heavy lifting on open source is on the original authors.
Yeah.
The heavy lifting in order to clone is on the cloners.
The cloner. Yeah. The cloner. And the cloner makes good money.
Yeah.
And the
That's
cloner
really
also shows an army of hungry,
that's
bent
really
out of shape
interesting.
nerds the
Yeah,
path,
that's
right?
really interesting.
If you start hitting some big ones, right? Like that'll be, if we can see the stock market cap of like some of the big closed source proprietary companies, like if you start smacking the little ones out and you start sort of looking up and you're like, SAP, you're actually not that
Yeah, I'd love to go
fucking
against
tough.
Oracle. Those guys have always irritated me for some reason.
Yeah.
Usually because I had to sign off on some really massive invoices for support. Um, and I mean, we're talking about 6, 7 figures for something that you guys have already built it.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's all those sort of big things that are there. If we can demonstrate that you can use this tool, maybe not to knock down the big guys today, but you can knock down some small guys today, and you can see how the rate of self-improvement of the platform will lead to being
Well,
able to hit the middle guys tomorrow.
yeah, but the knocking down of the big guys is fun. But the important thing is, as soon as it's unleashed into open source, then you've got the rapid innovation cycle improving it.
Mm.
Because now it's available to be improved.
Yeah.
Which means unless they are really, really good and really fast, AI and discovery of Stux and the whole Stux loop will improve faster than they do. Now, it doesn't even need to be that much faster.
No, that's right. And it's also very cheap.
Yeah.
So that's sort of these kinds of things. I'm like, these are grandiose things. And then I look at our interface and I'm like, does it really start from that?
Well, we'll have to see. This is probably too geeky for my gran, you know. My mum would not be able to use this. Yeah, maybe that's a yardstick. But the thing is, we've got 2 loops to go back to our conversation of about 58 minutes ago. We got the presentation layer, which is jitters, and that's all really anyone cares about. But then underneath that, we've got the innovation loop, and then we got the jailbreaking loop, let's call it, which you just talked about. So something that already exists can be jailbroken by AI using the innovation loop.
Yeah, the jailbreaker. That's interesting that you call it that. But yeah, the jailbreaker.
But the presentation there, I think probably even my mum could deal with jitters.
Your mama. Yeah, well, it seems pretty easy, right?
Yeah,
And it sort of started to
talk
strike.
to it, and it displays stuff.
Oh yeah, so look,
Should
there's
be able to get that.
so okay,
Yeah.
so can I show you the latest where I got
yeah,
to with the
please.
platform? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you got the home account. It's welcome back nobody, because in my account I haven't set my name. So I go in here, I set my name to Bob Smith. I hit save. I come back home. I wait a minute. Welcome back, Bob Smith.
What was the cycle that? Why did it come back? That must have taken about 0.75 seconds, something like that. What was the loop it was doing?
So in here, it did a save to the server. And then over here, because this is a separate NAP, it was watching for the change. It was watching for the next commit in the branch to occur. And when it detected that commit, it pulled down the latest data and then it updated its view.
Right. Oh,
okay.
That's sweet.
And when you browse that file, you can see that it was here where it said user name Bob Smith.
Nice. Oh,
and now if I change it again, I'm like Bob Smith 2 because I'm unimaginative. I save it, I come back, and you can see that the file changed to Bob Smith 2.
I'm sorry, I'm probably getting inappropriately excited about that. That is sweet.
And then you can see in the branch that the commit here was update the account data, which occurred at 8:13 p.m. Then before that was another version of update really account data.
So close. I mean, this is brilliant.
So this
Sorry,
is all the
I'm not
commits.
blowing smoke up your arse. It's like,
It's
yeah,
coming. It's getting there, right?
that's really sweet.
And I
That's
added this
cool.
debug mode, taking inspiration from your, hey, would it work in a CLI? And I was like, you know what would make my life easier? A diagnostic frame. And so now, like, when you hit that bug button, every frame switches to diagnostic mode, and then I can just sort of see
And you
like
can just see, yeah.
the raw data that's under there, like what commit it was part of, all that
Nice.
stuff, right? And then you
That's
turn diagnostic off, and then you're back to the actual jitter, the frame, doing its thing. So yeah, so it's it's
Oh,
there.
hat off to me. Hat off to you, rather. Um, that is really quite exciting.
Okay, and then when I refresh, the name is still there, Bob Smith too.
That's exciting as getting a hello world from, Adreno.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's basically the where I'm trying to get to has been reached in a lot of ways. I would have more progress to show you, but I lost a half a day to a really stupid problem. The consistency settings on Tigris had this weird bug that I was doing everything right and it wasn't working. And then I added all these tests and did all this debugging, and then eventually I deleted the Tigris bucket, added it back in, changed nothing else, and then it worked just fine. And I was like, that was a bug in Tigris, I'm pretty sure, but I don't know how to reproduce it, and I'm a little bit afraid of Tigris now because I'm like, that's weird. But hasn't happened again, so whatever. But yeah, I would be further along were it not for that. But this is, each one of these is a frame, independent of anything else. And it's a file system, as you saw. It's repos. Probably CloneWorks. I know that it's always a bad idea to try and clone something like in mid demo or show some feature that you haven't tested.
Yeah,
but I'll do it.
Don't do it. Well, okay.
I'll give it a shot.
Don't fuck up your normal work for sake of a demo.
That's what I live for. Okay, so we'll get rid of that. We'll put in this repo. Clone the repo.
Okay. Here we go. It's not gonna work. It's definitely not gonna work.
It looks like it worked. So now we got the frame account panel. And then what's the branches doing? Are they right? Look at the skeleton rendering. Oh, beautiful. It's like loading, loading.
Doing stuff.
Well, it's taking too fucking long. What about the actual files? Oh, that's pretty good. No, that's actually... That cloned it. That's the repo.
Hey.
Yeah, look. So that's the Git repo pulled into Artifact from GitHub. And then the branches is... it's still loading commits. I don't know why it's taking so long, but whatever. Oh yeah, here's the repo.
Hey.
This is the source code of the...
that was pretty snappy as well.
That's the source code of the frame that's running this thing. Lol. Inception much, whatever. But yeah, that's the thing. So yeah.
Oh, nice. And how's context getting on in terms of the left-hand side?
This bit?
Yeah, so, I want to chat about these disparate bits.
Oh, I haven't got that working yet. The design seems good, but yeah, yeah, I have not got there yet. That's probably, I guess that'll be tomorrow if I can get the time to work on it. My son's really sick at the moment, so that's been holding things up a bit.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Young kids tend to get sick.
yeah, they do.
It's really annoying.
Um, all right, and yeah, so basically the chats are going to be stored in the file system, and as you see, we've got a working file system, and then yeah, I guess tomorrow I'll make it so you can stuff it into a chat,
That is,
and
that
then
would be absolutely awesome.
yeah, so it's coming along
And it's
like it's
browser based as well, so you can send the URL link to someone else.
yeah, but I've purposely turned that off, right? So when someone else sees your stuff, they'll get like it'll show permission denied. So what we could do is make it so that it shows, hey, you need to be signed in to see this, or I could give you a button that made it public, in which case you could share the URLs around. The real thing I want to happen is that you find your friends using
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
platform,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you're having chats in platform with your friends. So
Yeah,
we're
'cause
all having a shared group chat.
Yeah, last time with Hal, we had, I think it peaked at 25 users, of which I knew about 2.
I know, right? I'm like, who are these people? But
Yeah.
what I'm super excited for, once we can get context working, is that we can have a chat and we can pass the app around. So I can like go to one of these apps, fire it up, and then I can send it as context to the chat so that we can have the same app running as well as having the chat about the data. It's like the running application has been shared as well.
Yeah. That's, I don't know percentages, but that's like a 60% boost from, 0 to 60.
I mean, yeah, but that's an advantage over even regular chat, because regular chat is an absolute balls achy nightmare to pass files around.
Yeah. Yeah. And to collaborate on, we got one browser here. I could have my browser open and be collaborating on it. You could
Yeah,
also send over, states saying, "Hey, right, I've finished my stuff.
yeah,
You work on this." There's
yeah. Like
a
it's,
hell of a lot that can be done
I
just like
know,
that.
I know.
It
It
seems
does.
really bare bones, but there's a hell of a lot that can be done.
It does seem bare bones. It's like naked as hell, but it's sort of the building blocks of it all, right? Repos.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is super exciting, man. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait.
But then what? I guess, right? Like what we need is we need a way to set it to task to have like this process queue should be running hot. Like it should be grinding on jobs that take hours, maybe days, and still give useful results. Like we should be working on setting up competitive analysis. It's like go find me the top 1,000 closed source SaaS companies in the world. Go out
Right.
and assess each
Well,
one for clonability.
I'll give you a real world example that I think would fit really sweetly into this. You remember the cancer guys?
Mm.
So, tier 1 has just eaten 4 months of development of a tier 3 because
Great.
tier 1 got so good that they've literally just fired the team and ditched the code of
Yep.
3-4 months worth of development.
Yep.
Because single shot they're getting it, but they're still doing cut and paste and local files. So by that, they're getting such good results by going to O4 um, and doing RAG each time,
Mm.
um, uh, saving the files that are generated for RAG on their local file system. They're getting better results than they got with this team that have been working. It's a team of four. It's not a small amount of money.
Mm.
Um, that were trying to do agentic through traditional means,
Right.
API calls and that sort of thing.
Right.
So what you just described, they could use tomorrow to solve that problem. Repos for storage, for long-term
Right.
memory,
Right.
context in chat, and then a human interacting. That's all they need.
Mm.
So it was interesting because, well, unfortunately, you know, they did decide to like scrap their team, but the team were trying to do it traditionally, and
Mm.
they went and after the last couple drops, thinking actually cut and paste, and these new models get far better responses than this team that had been working at it. And that team got wiped out. And it's probably about a six-figure sum,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It was interesting because we were talking about tier 1, 2, and 3, but that I've known these guys for like 18 months, and they literally had to drop everything because of a new model drop, but they're still doing it hand cranked. There's no
Right. So
persistence.
I guess part of our capability that we want to promote is the ability to adapt to model drops fastest. It's like new
Yeah,
model landed, and like same day we're up with the model. It's run all the evals. It's available to you. Off you go.
yeah, exactly. It's a bit like at what point do you push out a starship to go to Alpha Centauri? It's like, do you wait for technology to improve so you can go faster, or do you do it now? And the do it now guys are getting overtaken because the technology is improving faster than their speed. Um, I think that's going to be
Yeah,
pretty consistent.
but yeah. So we want to be the platform of the overtake, right?
Yeah,
Because being able to have whatever you develop be a jitter showing in the state board panel alone,
that's exactly the point.
and
That's
then you've
exactly the
got
point I was
all
making.
your
Yeah,
context is kept separate, because it drives me mad that you go to Miro for whiteboards and now you've got a chat in there, you've got a login in there, you've got it's
well,
like
these guys are using HubSpot right now. HubSpot,
yeah,
copy and paste over to OpenAI, and
yeah, like all the
it's
context and all that should be outside of the app, and that's really the architectural difference we're presenting.
yeah.
The chats, the contacts, the context, the files, the repos, the application
All that is
execution.
persistent. That's persistent. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then the models can
identity.
do whatever they want to do. Yeah,
Yeah. And then inside of that, you have this app that only needs to concern itself with the utility that it's built for, not all this crap like social connections, um,
hmm
file persistence. It's just like, here's your stuff, do it.
which is exactly what we got here. The
Yeah.
context is everything with AI, um,
Yeah.
and
I would
with
argue maybe it's actually been everything all the time. It's just that we traded it to get anything working.
yeah,
So
yeah,
here's how I want to. So this top bar is probably the area where I have the most work to do. This is the control bar of the state board,
hmm
and one of the features I think you'll like is that we'll be able to, using this top bar, roll back through versions of a particular frame.
Mm-hmm.
So you can sort of be toying around with something and then be like, I wonder how the old version would have handled this. And as a user, you can roll back and forwards between these different versions as you twiddle with them and figure out which one you like. Plus, you can have the one that you're currently forked and developing yourself in there as well, and it's all being presented with the same data. The other neat thing I noticed about frames is that they really have no concept of if the latest commit really is the latest commit. And so you can, without any extra work, you can roll them back in time and view the data at any point in time, and the frame is not programmed any different. It's programmed exactly the same. So I think those are helpful
It's one
features.
of these kind of lurking, Easter egg things, because you can't really do that now. To roll back and not undo is not a thing that I don't think I've seen anyone provide.
Nah, and like when someone releases a new version of a SaaS app, you're like, well, what if I want the old one? Like that's actually kind of hard
Yeah,
to get a handle on.
You can undo, but then you think, should I undo? It's like going back on your browser button.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
And then if you go back on the browser button, then you can go forward, yeah. But you go back on your browser button and you make any kind of change, and then
Right.
now you're in a different fork.
Yeah, right. And you've got no way to get back. Yeah. So like that's, I don't know. It just seems quite fun, all that.
It seems very, very helpful. Even in a browser sense, it'd be helpful.
But I guess, yeah, this ability to fully control the app because you're looking in on it rather than being inside of it and subservient to it. Being in full control of the app is a different angle, and I'm liking it. I'm liking it a lot.
Yeah, I agree. This is looking nice. This is really looking nice. I don't know, how much cheerleading you need, but keep going, man.
Turns out I need quite a bit because it's just killing me. I'm like so many tiny little issues, but then, if you look at the rate of my like codex work, it's like that's a lot. Each one of these things that got merged.
That's a lot of change. Oh, +6 minus 177.
Yeah, like I had to think about and review each one of these, every single one, and it's like this is a lot of stuff to push out.
Here's an interesting, right? Okay, this is a bit of a rabbit hole. I admit that, but what's your thoughts on how attribution would work with these commits? So each of these things is adding value, pushing the peanut on towards what we're trying to do. How would you just
I would to attribute to them, I would squash them. So you'd just be like, well, there's considering them individually, given that they all came from me, there's no point thinking about them individually. You just squash them all down into one, and then you're like, that's the change.
Some of these you got +2 -2, because we've got metrics here, which is why I'm asking. You got +34 -14, +128 -19, and then you have the previous one, which was like -177. What's the metric of the value that you'd put just with your gut?
How would I put the value on these ones?
You sound like a single prop small aircraft trying to land without power.
I don't bloody know, Maxwell.
It's an interesting thing, though, isn't it?
But I
Because
don't think I need to know.
Your intuition on this one, though, you're right in the middle of it. Shooting away all these.
Ah, yeah, okay.
updates.
I think what your deeper question is to someone from the outside, to a consumer of this library, what is the value of my commits?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it turns out that I think the value is in the prompt.
Oh, I
That's
wasn't expecting that. Okay.
this is what cost me. Right? Like, to know that I need to say it, to word it right, to research it, to review the versions that came back as a result of it, and then to choose the one that resulted. It's the prompt that cost me.
Right. Oh, pause. So what you're saying is, it's the number of times you need to correct your own prompt in order to get the outcome. It's not the size of the change.
Not the number of times. It's the innovation contained within the prompt. So I'll give you a good example here. Like, a lot of these are just incremental changes, right?
Yeah.
Fixing a bug or some kind of an issue there. And you can imagine a world where the bugs can be fixed by the agents, because the agents should be able to fire up a browser, use the thing, see the logs, see the errors, and then be like, oh, I better fix that before the boss comes along.
Yeah.
So this one was maybe my smartest move of the day, where I was like, this was where I'd said I need a diagnostic frame. I want because I'm dying when I'm like, was the problem in the top level parent? Was it in the way the data got passed down to the child, or was it in the child? I don't fucking know. And then I was like, I got a great idea. I'm gonna make a diagnostic frame. And so I wrote this by hand, and this was my smartest move today. But that resulted in plus 99 minus 2. You know, it's...
Which, another heuristic would be, if you remove lines, it's better than adding lines, but that would count very negatively against what your smartest move of the day was.
You wouldn't know, I think. If you didn't have the prompt, you wouldn't know that this was the smartest move of the day. Particularly not if you jumbled all the commits together. So what I'm starting to get a sense of is that this way of coding is incomplete. It's actually, what's really happening is these numbers of versions are what we're starting to see as decision trees in code, because each version is different by some key option. And what I really want is a system that grinds away to present me with the options in isolation, for two reasons. The first is that it's easier for me to look at the strategy and be like, bad, bad, good. And then I assume the bot would learn from that and not do the bad things again. And then, it makes my life better. But the second thing is that it's starting to become more important to store the prompts than it is to store the source code, because the source code...
Yeah, precisely.
Right? But there's another kind of a coding object that's starting to appear, which is the sloppy patch. So when you typically make code, like all the diffs here, these are a patch of code. And I can only really apply this patch if I have exactly the patch before it, because otherwise the patch is all like wonky because things have changed. But if I have a patch that has a prompt that includes a strategy, some guiding rules, the instructions, and then sort of the output it had, then a patch application can use an LLM to look at all those things and figure out how to best insert it, even though the code base has changed in the meantime. Because that merge conflicts are starting to be my new enemy. I didn't have them all that often before. And when they happen between people, you normally work it out and they're not that common. But here you end up with the stupid position of waiting for a run to finish so that you can merge it in so that then you can start the next patch without having a conflict because you want to work on the same files. But what you should be doing is the bots should be working really hard to reduce it down to a concentrated prompt, a group of strategy options. And so each prompt I give, I would expect it to be broken down into atoms, and then the options for each atom figured out, and the patch is applied to the existing code base as best it can, but the patch remains sloppy so that I can be like, I like that, I don't like that, and it doesn't matter what other work was happening in the code base at the same time, the patch is still applicable because it's fuzzy, it's intent based, it's not concretely like this fucking binary line, this exact line number, it's the strategy and the options, because there's only so many options.
You're grinding against something that I think could be really valuable for attribution.
Yeah, it's the next level of coding. It's not coding like this is like fucking. It's painful. It's like being a monkey, and it's like I'm fucking watching. I'm having to like hand move the engine valves just in time, and I'm like, this is fucking stupid. Like it's also like, you don't need me to move the valves, you need me to drive the car. Like, why don't I just drive the car? You figure out the valve timing. But there's a way that's coming. Like, I'm very reticent to suggest that we should change how we make code, because there's danger there. Like, it's what we want to do. We want to preserve the way that people make code, because people spent decades getting good at it and recognizing patterns and things like that. And you don't want to just chuck all that in the bin, because it's an expression of knowledge that we need to capture. And so I want to get rid of how we merge code, how we apply changes, how we think about coding strategy. Like, we don't want to be dealing with this shit anymore. We want to have nuggets of prompt, and we want the machines to figure out all the possible choices that would still be valid ways to fulfill that prompt. And we want humans to choose between the options.
Why do you think this is the highest value prompt?
This was a novel idea. There was no diagnostic frame before. The addition of the diagnostic frame gave me stable insight into understanding how the system was working at any given point, so that I could more rapidly narrow down what part of the chain the errors were in.
So, novel ideas that are not derivative and are prompt based,
right? So you
higher value than derivative ideas where you're just sweeping the floor.
Yeah, because what if you looked at every prompt before that one, it should have been able to see that I'm fussing around trying to solve problems where I'm not sure if it's where the problem is. Maybe the problem's here, maybe the problem's there. Like, all the prompts beforehand show me doing a combination of patching plus troubleshooting plus asking for more logging plus asking some questions with some theories, like maybe this is happening, posting broken logs. But really, if I had the diagnostic frame, it would become clear. And I'd be like, oh, well, it's fucking obvious. Why would I don't even need to talk to anyone anymore, right?
Oh, there's just something out of fingers reach here.
There's a lot of these things, dude.
I don't know. I'm going to think about this. I think you've hit on a bit of a gold seam.
I know. It really hurt.
Using this.
I hit it with my head.
Yeah.
But that decision tree thing, and that being able to capture the prompt, so what you end up doing is you work in the prompt, but you also choose in the prompt. So instead of version 1, 2, 3, 4, it's actually choosing between strategic the strategy options. That it's like, I tried everything I could think of, and these are the best 5 ways that you could choose to solve that. I then back checked against all the times you slapped me in the face for doing bad things. These 3 options remain. Which one would you like? And then you can choose them, but you can also unchoose them, because if you choose this, the trouble with coding is it's incremental, and as you know, you can incrementally make good choices and end up in a bad place. And so you make the choice, you make the next choice, you make the next choice, and you're like, oh, this place sucks. And then you roll back, and then you're like, what about this other path? And then that's how you code, actually. And the actual language change that's happening under the hood is really just an embodiment of those, you making your own story where you're presented with multiple path options. They are discrete. They are not sloppy, and they are usually small in number. They're like between 3 and 6 different ways that you could go. Most of the time, it's 3 or 4. Like, it's never high. And so if we can make an interface that allows you to code like that in any language, because that way of thinking about code occurs in all coding languages, in all pursuits of logic, knowledge, all those kinds of things, and we capture the prompt, capture the strategies, and now you've got these fuzzy patches that also can be used to preserve attribution. That's the new source code. That's the new fucking
really fucking
thing.
interesting, man. It feels like there is a feedback loop where, when you're proposing a solution to a stuck, the solution is informed by attribution. What's the most valuable thing to do?
Yes. Yep, that's also true. But that may lead you astray, because at any given point, the most valuable thing to do may not be the most valuable thing long term, but you can't know that until you've taken a bit of a wander through the probability space. Coding is about probability reduction.
Yeah, there's the local minima problem.
Yeah,
which,
yeah. At any given point, there is no known right or best solution. There isn't. If there was, the bot would have taken that for you, and you're just presented with what's left. And there will always be what's left. That's the thing.
Right. But what I was thinking is, say you're in a local minima and you've got a better local minima just over the hill, then attribution is a clear signal of what was useful. And it's like, is this more useful going down this way? It could be a way of getting over the energy gradient to get over the local minima to a better one. It's not the best one. You're never going to get the best one.
There might not be a best one, all things considered.
Yeah. In fact, that's almost predestined, because the best one evolves with usage as well. But attribution also evolves with usage. That is really fascinating.
It's an interesting thing, eh? It's a. I think that with that one missing change, and I'm not keen to tackle it now, but it feels like that's the next tool to make once we get some stability, is how to. It's almost like that prompt is like a stuck, or the opposite of a stuck. Like the prompt is a proposed solution in its most smallest atomic form. Like, it's not any kind of solution unless it's a prompt. Like, because what would come of it, right? Like, how would how would a solution come from anything less than a prompt's worth of stuff?
Exactly. And with attribution, we've always been stuck with the how do we attribute value? And its basis form is how many times is this line of code executed, which is a really shitty way of doing it.
Yeah,
But
no.
I think what you're getting insight into here by saying it's actually the prompt. Now the prompt
Yeah.
deals in gradients. It's like how useful
I think
or
that,
how
yeah, I think
succinct.
that making prompt coding there's the opportunity here to make a prompt coding platform that enhances the paradigm of vibe coding a bit, because people are used to vibe coding being a chat, but we don't have tools that break that chat down into atomic patches and
Yeah.
allow you to apply that patch out of chat or out of context. And so if we can make a vibe coding platform that adds that little bit of nugget of innovation, it actually also makes it easier to attribute to the practice of vibe coding, because previously the practice of conventional coding you would attribute to a patch, like a patch of code, and it was easy to do because the code was produced by human fingers, and so it's not really that
Right.
big a deal. But
Right.
now the code is just being produced at an alarming rate, and what matters is what did the human do? Well, the human didn't touch any code. I haven't touched any code. I've maybe touched, oh, I don't know, 10 lines of code in the last 2 days, and I deleted them all because I was just doing it to experiment with something so I understood it, right? Now that's an embarrassingly different way to live my life from having written code all day every day for
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
years, right? Like I'm like, I don't even know who I am anymore, but um I couldn't produce this number of lines of change, and these were good. Some of these where I was like, "Ooh, that's outstanding!" Like, there's a couple of these that are good, and they're only going to get better, right? And so,
Mm.
presenting a new way to vibe code, like it feels like the Dreamcatcher is destined to be, in large part, a vibe coding platform,
Yes.
but it's not for just code. It's like every user is going to be a vibe coder, because you can all say a prompt, and the prompt can be worked upon and altered and chained and added and all that, but
Right. But
all you got to
the
do is make a prompt.
the interesting thing is the prompt is the interface between your human brain and the AI. That is the initial
And the agent,
interface. Yeah.
right? So
And
that's this
so
bit.
the value of yeah, exactly. The value of how precise you interact, how well you interact with the AI is really the value, not the code produced.
So actually, what we're talking about here is maybe a bit bigger than I realized, because if the unit of value is the prompt,
Mm-hmm.
then everybody can contribute. And so,
Yes.
particularly in terms of what the SEC views as contribution, it's like, well, did you prompt it?
Right.
And from your
Exactly.
prompt, did it come out better or worse? And they're like,
You
well,
can, in the extreme version, you could prompt WhatsApp, or you
right,
could have a very succinct and very precise prompt that results in something very valuable.
right, right. And so, and even the bots can know those things. They're like, it's like, what's up? Like, what does that, what does that mean, right? And so,
Yeah.
I guess the vibe coding platform we want, like at that point, everyone can speak English. And so if you just speak English with meaningful intent, the bots will help you.
Meaningful intent. Yes,
Right?
that's exactly it. It is the measure of how much meaning you get from your brain, which is the intent, how well you can express that, so such that
Mm.
the AI can
Yeah,
go and
and
do
it'll
work.
help you because it'll guess at what you said and it'll ask you questions that are clarifying, and eventually you'll end up with a prompt that's pretty. Like I could have looked at, say, maybe 10 of these, and if I had a good bot on my side, it could have reduced all those changes into like maybe 4 atomic prompt components, and it's like these 4 things are the nicest way of saying what you meant.
Right, right. And so there's a metric here emerging. If you take, 3 dozen prompts to get something that could be condensed down to 4,
Hmm.
um, that is less valuable than you took 100 prompts to get down to something that could actually have been expressed by 1. It's how much are you just churning over?
Yeah,
There
but
is a ratio here.
that doesn't really capture. That's just work. That's the new work. That's what work is now, right? It's
Yeah,
prompt
yeah,
refinement. It used to be source code refinement. Now it's prompt refinement,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's
But
all the
it's
work is. The work shifted one level higher.
yeah. I agree. And the guess what I'm saying is the more succinct and precise your prompt, the better. The
Yeah.
more value it's going to produce.
Yeah, but the number of turns you took to reduce down to the smaller value has no bearing. It's relative. Like you don't know if that alone is not enough to say whether that one thing is very high value or
Oh, I
not.
see what you're saying. So if you have a thread and you take like half an hour to get to one single, yes, that's what I meant,
Yeah,
then you fire that off. There's a kind of trigger, and that trigger thing is the value.
yeah,
That value is what's produced
yeah.
because of
How
that.
you got there is almost irrelevant. It's like
Right,
that
right,
thing is
right.
what you get measured on, right? And that
Oh,
what that
sounds
means
like a
is that
metric.
like every single person, every user can be a meaningful coder. If we can turn coding into prompting and that's all you got to do, then we can make everybody a coder
Right,
because no one needs
right.
to know code anymore except the really advanced people.
If you take the Stux loop, it's like, oh, I tried to do this, and then you like balance out to your top level AI saying, oh, I really wanted this,
Right,
and you can
but
take half an hour to talk about it, but then there's a well-formed thing
right.
afterwards.
But I think if we think about it instead of thinking about it in you're writing code, think about it in you're writing prompts. The stuck loop would kick in as soon as you said your prompt because the prompt loop would go around and refine it before it even began work. And it's like, did you mean that? Did you mean that? What about this? And oh, yeah, no, yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, that thing. Plus all
Yeah.
your context as well. And then it would go off and do a bunch of stuff. And it would realize that there's these several key options that need you to choose because it's like, well, these are the ways that I can fulfill that prompt. Now, do you want to pick one because that's a form of prompt refinement, or do you want to refine the original prompt? That does now that you've seen the options, do you want none of them? Like, do you realize that you were completely wrong? All those kinds of moves now, that's one level higher than the code. And
Yes.
anybody can run at that level. Anyone with a brain and a feedback loop, anyone who knows what they want is going to be able to drive that machine. And I think that's a powerful thing that we stumbled on there.
I think you're right. And also, how do you derive relative values of it in terms of impact? Back to impact crystals, one of my favorite subjects.
Mm.
If
Well-
you have something that's succinct, that has a major impact, that is ultimately beneficial to the attribution loop,
Mm.
then there should be a metric attached to that.
I agree with you in principle, but I have, since we've realized what the design of the ambient attribution agent would be, trying to figure out what impact is or isn't, somewhat doesn't interest me anymore because it's actually not our business. Our business is to put the platform in place that the agent can decide and then petitions can be made.
That's true. That's true. But I'm just seeing a hazy shape on the horizon.
Yeah,
Never-
right? Like it starts
Yeah.
to be like, oh, I think I see it. But
it's like, it should emerge. It should
yeah,
emerge.
because I guess what's funny is that the long-standing question of like, well, how do you attribute to these lines of code? And the answer is probably you don't, because you shouldn't have been writing lines of code in the first place. And
Yeah.
so you attribute,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, it sounds bloody obvious when you think about
You
it. It's like,
attribute to intent. Like, what were you trying to do? What was the prompt? How novel was it? How much
yeah,
value was created because of the prompt, not the code.
it's like trying to value a poem by the word count.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about this again. I'm gonna have to like think
I
about
think
this.
this is the future of vibe coding.
There's
This is where
something.
vibe coding goes.
I think we're onto. I think we've just like cracked the shell of something here.
Yeah.
Don't know what it is yet.
It's coding. It's coding in the future. And it's,
The
you know, Codex is a great sort of ranging shot, but actually it needs one level higher. It needs a better language. It
yeah.
needs a yeah.
The thing I'd say though is it is hugely valuable your experience of using Codex.
It has been so painful, dude. Like, you have no idea. Like, do you remember how you
It's
felt when like the bots would spit out pages and pages of output, and then you'd
yeah.
have to read
God,
it,
yeah.
and then
Yeah,
if it
yeah.
was slightly different and you're like, oh my god, it's a little bit different, I'm not sure how I need to read it all.
Yeah.
That.
Yeah. Oh my
What's worse,
um
you can
cut
see
and
the
paste
numbers of
terrible.
lines of shit that I had to read.
Yeah. Well that's exactly the same, isn't it? It's like the cut and paste terror, where even now, you can have like four windows open when you've done, slightly different runs when
Mm,
you're just reading through text, and it
mm.
takes you 2 hours to figure out what's going on in 4 minutes of, token grinding.
Yeah, but this workbench would be super useful there, because you just transclude a lot of them and be like,
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
different?
Yeah, exactly.
And then
And
if
then
you
you can talk.
start,
You can talk to the
the
the whole
key
thing.
is what the Dreamcatcher should do for you is, if it notices you regularly doing a pattern of like transclude this, transclude that, ask what happened, it would produce for you a little jitter that sort of tried to do that automatically for you. That's
Yeah.
that's really the key feature we want of the Dreamcatcher, is to figure out ways to make your life better before you even asked, just by
Wouldn't that
looking at what you clicked
wouldn't that
on.
be awesome? You suddenly get a jitter button pop up
Yeah,
saying do the same again,
yeah, right,
just with a slightly different prompt.
right, right. And it's like, that's a helpful tool, man. I've never
That
seen a
is.
tool like that was like, hey, did you know that 2 days
Yeah.
ago someone made this thing, and now you can do this other thing?
Yeah. That is really cool.
Yeah.
Right. I'm feeling actually really pumped by that last part. I'm gonna have to think about this.
That feels like I'm finally out of the valley of death. Like, it turns out that like my melancholy and despair with Codex, whilst drowning in, like, literally drowning in high quality code, something I've striven for all my life, and goodness knows how many people I've offended trying to whip it out of people, bribe it out of people, threaten it out of people, like, to get good quality code. And now I'm drowning in it, and I'm like, why am I sad about that? And I think it's because there's a missing language layer, that's the language of like prompt chains and prompt relationships. It's what I'm doing in my brain and in my cut and paste and in my, it shouldn't be me doing that. I should be steering that, not doing it. And that's the
Something
thing.
that's fairly fundamental. It's you're staggering out of the mud pit with a mucky ball of mud that's got a diamond
I know,
inside.
I'm like
And going,
in this
oh,
rock.
look at that.
Yeah. It scratched and nearly cut my leg off when I bumped against it in the mud, but look.
Ah, All right. Okay. I'm
That
gonna
feels
think
good,
about
right?
that
And
some more.
then,
It
like, I
really
really
does.
like this narrowing down what we're doing, because this allows us to say what we're trying to do. Like, the thing that I think has made it hard to describe what the Dreamcatcher does is it's because it's the evolution loop, the self-learning, that you cannot point at a thing and be like, that's self-learning. You can only, like, see it after multiple runs and you're like, oh yeah, that's self-learning. It's
Yeah.
not, it's the most unobvious thing. And I would say that perhaps that is Aladdin's lamp. It is the cycle of self-improvement.
It is, and this is so frustrating. And I've tried to explain to quite a few people now, Dreamcatcher, and um, it's too meta for them.
I
Um,
don't know if that's true. But like, it's self-improvement is not something that you can easily see around you.
yes, it takes a lot to understand what the loop is
In
and
fact,
why.
most people don't even, including myself, don't even have a clear handle on it for their own selves. Like, how am I self-improving? Am I self-improving enough? Am
Yeah,
I actually evolving forwards, or am I devolving? Right? It's actually the most, you know that technological progress is happening, but you can't really point at, like, if it is happening, where? It's like trying to point at what time is. It's like, is that
yeah,
time? Is that
yeah,
time? Are you sure that's not time? And
yeah,
it's the same thing. And so, but with these descriptions of, like, um these four features, when used together, allow for the emergence of self-improvement. That's the Dreamcatcher.
yes.
That's really what we're doing, and that's why it's been so hard to say, because it's not one thing. It's motion, it's movement,
And
it's change.
the thing is, when it's in motion, people are not going to be thinking about this level. They're going to be thinking about how they themselves are improving whatever it is they're trying
Yeah,
to
they're
do.
only thinking of the selfish,
Yeah,
narrow-minded little bits, because that's all that people should have to think about. It's all I want to think about, is like,
yeah,
I want to do this thing. I got this. There's this jitter thing. I want to talk to an agent. I want to make sure I don't get ripped off. And oh, look, it told me that I fucked up and I could do better if I did this other thing. Like,
exactly. It's like
that's just
trying
living your
to
life, man. That's just living your life,
exactly. It's like trying to talk to a hungry fish about fluid dynamics.
right?
Like,
About why the ecosystem collapse occurred, and the dude is just like, "Fuck you, man!" Like,
I'm just
just
hungry. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
So
that was
that's a
a weighty
relief,
one.
huh? That's
That
a
was a
relief.
weighty one. There's a lot of good stuff in this call. Damn. I'm getting goosebumps thinking about this. All right. Okay. Good. I probably need to go.
Oh, sweet.
Um.
But it's coming along, right? It's coming along. It's happening.
Oh, hell yeah. Hell yeah.
It's the stuff. The stuff is occurring.
I'm almost vibrating with anticipation.
The stuff is happening to Bob Smith too.
Yeah.
All right. Sweet. So yeah, you still, just a couple of reminders. You still got to check up on your Kenyan vaccinations, because they're
Yep.
different from East to West Africa, and they take
Yep.
some time to apply.
Yeah. I'll check up on those. And what else? We had the earlier thing we're talking about.
I'll stop the recording, eh?
Yeah. 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 That's best.